Tonight's Trend Advantage webinar series is going to be on varsity athletics and campus recreation. So with me tonight is Alex Bridle. Alex is our very own athlete development coordinator. Alex, welcome.
Thank you very much, Zach. Glad to be here with you tonight.
Glad that you're here.
And thank you very much to everyone who's joined us as well. As Zach mentioned, we're here to talk today about varsity athletics as well as the recreation, some of the facilities and the campus recreation program that we do have here. So we'll touch on a number of facets of our programming, as well as I mentioned, the Trent campus and landscape that we do kind of exist in and where the programs do function, as well as some of the upcoming exciting facilities that we may see on campus in the near future. So with that in mind, I think we can probably get going on everything and look at the different various aspects of our programming.
For sure, yeah. But now, before we begin, I do just want to mention that if anybody has any questions for Alex, to please just enter them into the comments, and we'll be able to answer those questions at the end of the presentation in order. Okay, all right, perfect. Alex, let's take it away.
Thanks. So again, I'd like to welcome everybody, and just a little bit about what we'll cover, a little bit more organized here. So we'll first talk about the varsity aspect of our programming. We are Trent Excalibur. We'll talk a little bit about the history there. We will talk about the landscape. So as I mentioned, our campus here in Peterborough in the north end of the city, as well as the athletic center itself. And then we'll talk a little bit beyond varsity. So get into the campus recreation and intramurals and your standard fitness and lifestyle discussion as well, just keeping active and healthy while on campus. So again, we are the Excalibur. Excalibur is our logo and our mascot. So we'll talk a little bit about our story, our culture, our sports, and our goals when we're talking in reference to our varsity programming. So again, here you see our logo on the right hand. So this is the crest that you'll see. You may have noticed on my sweater when it first popped up. All of our teams have this crest on their jerseys, and it's the logo that you see that we represent when we're out in competition. So a little bit of our story, so a little literature here, but Trent has been competing in varsity competition for about 35 years, just over now, and excel at all levels of sport. But we do like to focus on the academic side as well. Any varsity athlete is a student athlete. We put student first on purpose. The focus is on your academics, but certainly achieving all your goals academically and athletically are important. That balance between sport, study, and also your social opportunities as well. So that's very important to us, and we want to make sure that that balance is there for anyone who is considering participating and representing the Excalibur. Just a little bit about the background on the logo itself. So the Trent education system does follow British traditions in terms of the college system itself, and we've continued that through with our logo, the Excalibur, which is King Arthur's sword. So as you see here, and the sword itself is said to have possessed magical powers. I'm not sure that we believe the logo itself does, but we think it's a very strong logo. It does represent strength in competition, and we're proud to wear it on our uniforms. So a little bit about our culture. As I mentioned, the student athlete experience is crucial for us, the balance between the academics and the athletics. So we like to ensure that our varsity athletes can find that balance and have resources available to them and know where to find them, and they are accessible in order to balance that out. There is a significant contribution that is required and commitment by anyone who does participate in a varsity sport. Some people estimate it's upwards of 40 hours a week when you are in season. So it's almost like holding a full-time job while you're also focusing on your academics. So we are aware of that, and we are proud of everything that our student athletes give, and we want to ensure that they have a positive experience. So again, sport can offer you many different experiences. You're going to have a good or a bad, somewhere on the scale of good and bad experience through sport, and we want to ensure we do everything we can to have our student athletes have a positive sport experience. And this does apply beyond varsity as well, the culture. So anybody we consider a student athlete, anyone who participates in an active and healthy lifestyle on campus, and that's part of the reason why my title is Athlete Development Coordinator is to ensure that we are giving opportunities, not just to our varsity athletes, but to anyone who wants to participate in that active and healthy lifestyle. Obviously, the representation and representing the Excalibur is very important. When you are competing in varsity sport, you are often traveling to other schools or welcoming other schools for competition. And so you are representing more than just yourself as an individual. You're representing yourself, your teammates, your coaches, alumni, and the rest of the student, staff, and faculty on campus. So it's a very important aspect of our culture and of developing that culture as a varsity athlete. And of course, that requires, like I said, a very strong commitment to yourself, but also all those people that you do represent as an Excalibur athlete. So now we will move into a brief video that we just like to show that sort of encompasses what the Excalibur are as a athletic organization and brand.
And 10 seconds until
All right, everyone. Well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that brief video that kind of shows all of our varsity sports that we do have. You got to see a little bit of the Trent landscape there as well. So we'll talk a little bit more specifically about what sports we do have now. We offer men's and women's teams in each of the sports you'll see here. So rugby, lacrosse, which is field lacrosse, not box, and soccer are three field sports which take place in the fall semester, the fall season. We also have men's and women's rowing, which obviously would be on the water, not on the field. That is also a fall season. And then we've got volleyball as a court sport. That's a sole court sport, but we do have our men's and women's volleyball teams. They run a two-semester program, so the only team we do have that competes both in the fall and winter semesters. All varsity sports will have training and sometimes exhibition play in off season, but volleyball begins in about October and runs through till March or early April if we're fortunate enough to get to a provincial or national championships in that. And finally, we do have curling as well as a varsity sport. So we do not have curling rinks on campus, but we do have a partnership with the Peterborough Curling Club, which gives us access to those their facilities and our athletes to train. They host a competition, a Bonspiel, and then they travel to other universities for inter-university competition as well. We also have three varsity clubs as well. These clubs are student-led groups, but they do compete and are endorsed to compete at the varsity level, so at OUA championships. So we have the cross-country team, we have our fencing team, and we have our golf team. And again, we do have male and female teams available for those, pending the interest and the number of individuals who are participating in those sports. Not always will we have those teams travel to OUA championships, so sometimes it's more of a developmental year for certain aspects, but the vast majority of the time we are going to the OUA championships with those programs. So we'll talk our goals as a department. So we want to attract and cultivate elite level student athletes. So we're not only looking for individuals to come in, but we're also looking always at how we can ensure that those individuals are growing in both their academics and their athletics when they are here at Trent. We obviously want to put the strongest programs together as possible, but we want to make sure that they continue to grow and that people are really taking positives out of their experience here at Trent as well. Certainly at varsity level, competition is the key. It is the top level of competition for many of these varsities, for many of these sports that compete at varsity. So the OUA Youth Sports in CUFLA, which is the Canadian University Field Lacrosse Association, only our men's lacrosse plays in that league. That is a men's field lacrosse league for the university level. And we want to ensure that we are contending with the top schools. So we showed you the teams that we do have there and what varsity programs, and we are making great strides in there and competing year in, year out in all of our sports. We are very, very happy to say that we are the reigning OUA champions for women's field lacrosse, and our men's field lacrosse team finished in second in the nation at the national championships this year. So very positive outcomes there. And of course, our other teams all had successful seasons as well, but very proud of where we are and where we continue to be in terms of competition and competitiveness with our other schools. And again, want to focus on the fostering of achievement in academic, sport, and life. We really feel that varsity sport offers a unique opportunity to individuals who are fortunate enough to be able to have the skill and determination and drive to compete here and also balance their academics and their social lives as well. There is a life outside of school and sport, but they do sort of work together to build that social aspect of life. And that unique opportunity as a varsity athlete really comes through in the social networks you'll develop and the friendships, lifelong friendships that you'll actually foster through sport and varsity sport in particular. We like to use an example here of some of our student athletes whenever we can. So here you'll see Mike Jorgensen, who is a master's student in psychology. He's also just finished his 5th year as a captain of our men's rugby team. Mike has had tremendous success on field and as a master's student off field as well. He's currently doing research and just defended his thesis, which focuses on the effects of concussions and traumatic brain injuries in varsity athletes in particular. So some very pertinent information, some very relevant information, and goes to show that people can achieve great things as varsity athletes, but also as in the academic world as well. So now we'll talk a little bit about the landscape itself. This is where we live, play, and compete. So this is our campus in north end of Peterborough, which you can see the Otonabee River splitting the east and west campuses, banks, sorry, of the campus. That's Justin Chu Stadium. You can sort of see at the forefront the bright green spot there, which is, and just to the top right of that is our athletics complex, which we'll show some images of there in the next slide. Just beyond it, you'll see some trees just above that, which are actually now where our new student center is being built, which should be ready for fall of 2017, which we're very, very excited about that. And just beyond that, the building that's there is Battle Library, where we are currently speaking to you from, and it will be undergoing a very dramatic renovation and revitalization coming up in the near future. So a lot of positive things happening on campus, and we'll touch on a couple more as we go through the presentation here, but truly is a beautiful campus. I am an alumni myself of Trent and a former varsity soccer player, so I can attest to both the administrative and the student life. It's a fantastic place to be. It is worth noting as well the sheer size of the campus. Some people don't necessarily realize just how big Trent's campus is in Peterborough. So we have 1,400 acres of land, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the second largest footprint of any university in Canada, which is, it's fantastic, including 30+ kilometers of nature trails. So for people who like to enjoy the outdoors, it's a very, very unique setting. And as we talked to a couple of the items that are ongoing with the Student Center, the library, we had an addition and renovation to the athletics complex in 2009, and Justin Chu Stadium. We've got some state-of-the-art facilities as well on campus. Speaking of the athletic center, you'll see here, this is a shot from the southwest end of the building as you're entering. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see what would be the gymnasium, the gray part. That's part of the older building. The glass and wood additions that are on there were what was added in 2009. So a beautiful facility that we've got there, and very happy to be there. This is what you can see from inside, which is a 12,000 square feet of cardio loft and weight room. We have 2 fitness studios for programming and classes. Just on the right side there, you can kind of see it's sitting perpendicular to us, to the view, but a 28-foot indoor climbing wall. Of course, Justin Chu Stadium, where we host all of our varsity events and many other external groups as well, which is an outdoor artificial turf with a field and track. We do have 3 squash courts, including the international competitive squash court. So I mentioned that twice there in the points, but yeah, 3 squash courts in total. A little bit more. We're also very fortunate to have an indoor rowing tank, which is a state-of-the-art, most advanced designed indoor rowing tank in North America. I believe it's one of only 3 that do exist in the continent, on the continent as well. So we're very, very fortunate. That's through a partnership with Row Ontario and Row to Podium that we do have there. The gentleman in the image you see there is Andrew Stewart Jones, who is a graduating student this year on our varsity rowing team. And is actually going from here back out to Victoria to train at the Rowing Canada National Training Center. He's part of their program. He was the next in line to be rowing in Rio this past Olympics. So he's right at the top of the game in terms of rowing, and we have a number of athletes who do have access to that type of training, particularly with rowing through facilities like this. We do also have a 25-meter competitive pool. We have a therapy pool, which is primarily used for recovery from injuries, which is part of our Health and Motion, who are an on-site physio, rehab, and sports health clinic. So they make great use of the therapy pool for athletes or just community members from Trent or Peterborough who are looking for any sort of recuperation or any therapy through that programming. Of course, we talked about the hiking trails. We've got over 30 kilometers of trails. As a former varsity soccer player, the drumlin, as it's known, is a little bit dreaded. It's a mixed emotion because it was a bit of a punishment at times as well, where we'd be forced to go run the drumlin and continually do loops of it. But it's beautiful hiking trails if you're just out for a nice walk or even a run on the trails. And then we also have a canoe center where you're able to access the Otonabee River. We're very excited also that this year, this past summer, we were able to introduce the Excalibur Diamond, which is a partnership with the Toronto Blue Jays Care Foundation, so also with the Peterborough Baseball Association and the Peterborough Recreational Baseball Association. So on our East Bank, we now have a full Major League size ball diamond that's available, which we use for intramurals programming, and to the north of that, we actually have an additional sports field that was built where we host some of our campus recreation intramurals as well as some of our varsity training. And then also recently announced in the last couple of years is a partnership with the city of Peterborough, which is a new twin pad arena, which will be built just across the road from the Excalibur Diamond as well. So construction on that has not begun yet. So you'll see a sketch that has been put together here and proposed. And that's in the early stages of development, but sort of getting the designs finalized. But again, it just goes to show some of the facilities that are continuing to be brought to Trent and the partnerships with various organizations within the community. So now we'll talk a little bit about the athletics and recreation and opportunities beyond varsity. Campus recreation is a great way to get involved on campus, especially for our new students coming in. It's a great way to meet new people. You'll always have that opportunity through your residence if you're staying in a residence or if you're living there, and certainly through your courses as well. But we always encourage people to come out and stay active on campus. So we have plenty of opportunities. We've got programming going through the fall and winter semesters, including the sports that you do see here. Some of the sports, and when you're in the competitive leagues, they're competitive in rec for a number of them, as you can see: soccer, volleyball, and basketball. And it does offer a fairly decent level of competition if you are looking for that. If you're just looking for fun and friendship, then the recreational programming. And certainly as you get into some of the programming like dodgeball or inner tube water polo, we get a little more into the recreation side there, but lots of fun, and still a good way, like I said, to stay active and healthy while you are on campus. Trying your best to avoid that freshman 15, or in my case, a freshman 25. But one note that I will make there is our extramural hockey team. So we do not have a varsity hockey team, but we do have the opportunity to play on an extramural program, which does offer the opportunity to compete against other schools, be they colleges or universities, through some tournaments that occur through the year. And then, of course, fitness and lifestyle. Not everyone's looking for organized sports and sport programming, but people still want to be involved on campus and staying healthy. So all of our students gain access to the facility and the weight room and cardio loft through their student fees. It's included in there, so they have full access to that. What we do offer are classes that such as yoga and Pilates, boot camp, Sculpt and Burn, and some of the others you see here, as well as we're always looking for new programming opportunities. We do offer these through a fitness wristband that students can access. It's $30 per semester, or $55 for 2 semesters, which, when you look at the cost of just a drop in on a yoga or a boot camp, it really pays off, even if you just try them once or twice. But many people find that they get hooked on it and they build it into their routine on a weekly basis. So very excited to be able to offer that as well. So I'll leave this this information up here, but we'll, as we mentioned, I think we'll move to some questions at this point, and then we'll make sure that this contact information is available. Particularly, it's just want to clarify that if you're looking for varsity questions, you can contact me for varsity or campus rec and facility questions, but specific to varsity, please come to me. We also have the campus recreation at trentu.ca for questions specific to those intramural programming or potentially extramural programming as well.
All right, perfect. Okay, well, thanks so much for that presentation. That was quite the informative presentation. Now let's take it to some questions that we have here. Well, the first question that we have here is from Bill. And Bill is wondering, he is starting at Trent in the fall, and he is just wondering how to get involved with varsity sports.
Terrific question and great place to start, Bill. So thanks for asking. We generally recommend people to go to trentvarsity.ca and certainly to follow along on social media as well. You've definitely got Twitter and Facebook that are actively being used, and Instagram, but primarily for information sharing, you'll see it on Twitter and Facebook, and then the website for when we do have updates on training camps. So depending on what sport you're looking at, we can definitely share that information with you, but the website's the best place. Usually by end of April, early May, we've got the postings up there for when the actual training camps will start. Just so we're aware, just so for the earliest one, men's and women's soccer do start August 15th. It's a very early start, and most varsity training camps for the fall sports are starting the week before Labor Day, just so that they get people in before classes pick up and they can sort out and the competitive season starts.
Right. Okay. All right. Good thing to remember. Now, another question that I had, just in regards to that, if you're an individual that, say, doesn't have a lot of experience playing soccer but wants to try out for varsity soccer, is that something that is encouraged, or is that something that they're able to go and do with any varsity sport at Trent?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely hold open tryouts for all of our varsity teams. We do like to ensure that people are aware just the level of competition that does exist at the varsity level. As I mentioned in the presentation earlier, for many of these leagues, it's the top league for amateur sport available in Canada. So it is a very high level of competition that does exist. So, you definitely want to ensure you've been playing sort of towards the upper end of the skill level for a bit of an extended period of time. One that I would make mention to, though, that is a very unique scenario, though, is our rowing program, because we do actually have 3 separate programs within the one Trent University Rowing Club. So we have our novice program, which is specifically designed for individuals with limited to no experience rowing. Rowing is a very unique sport in that it's very much based on the body type and the mechanics of the sport. So not necessarily history. Not everyone's introduced to rowing at an early age like many other sports, 3 and 4 years old where you're going to kick a soccer ball in a field with 30 other kids. Doesn't happen with the rowing too often. So
makes sense.
One of the criteria of novice rowing is that you actually can't have ever competed at a competition. So it is for new people to rowing.
Okay.
And we've had people from the rowing program go from novice to Olympic teams just after their varsity career. So it's pretty cool to see in a matter of years how quickly people can get up there. But the rest of the sports, the rest of the sports I'd recommend you ensure if you're welcome to come out, but it is quite a high level of competition.
Okay, good to know. All right, so it looks like we have another question here then from Dale, and I believe that you already answered this to some respect, but he's just wondering when do fall varsity sports tryouts start, and he's wondering specifically for lacrosse.
For lacrosse, so we're still finalizing those schedules with coaches right now, but lacrosse, the season starts usually in about the second week of September. Okay. So they'll normally start the week before Labor Day, usually the Monday or possibly the weekend before. So you're looking late August. Because Labor Day is a little bit earlier right now, right. Just how everything's working out with the calendar. But so you'd anticipate that the tryouts are usually the first day or a couple of days of the training camp, and then they move right into training because there's only a matter of weeks between when we meet and when we get onto the field for competition. So it's a pretty rapid transition.
Okay, all right, good to know. So it does look like Bill has another question here. If you don't make a varsity team, can I still play on a recreational team?
Absolutely. The only sort of, I guess, rule that I'd suggest that sort of pertains to that is that we don't allow varsity athletes to compete in their sport in intramural, just because of the difference in the skill level. And also coaches tend to not like their varsity athletes risking injury when they're competing. So there's a little bit of that angle there as well. But absolutely, we have varsity soccer players who play campus rec volleyball or skipping between sports. And absolutely, if you're not on a team, you're welcome to join any of the intramural campus rec programming that does exist.
Okay, great. Okay, so another question here from Lawrence. Lawrence is wondering, how hard is it to make the soccer team?
That's a difficult question to answer. It's competitive every year. I can't speak to year over year. It does change though how many new individuals come out. One thing that's very exciting about Trent that we can speak to is last year we had a 17% increase in enrollment. So we have a growing student population when trends within universities tend to be lower, declining applications, but in many cases. So with that population, you tend to see more people coming out and trying out, and year over year, we're recruiting year over year, and so we do actively pursue individuals in many cases, but then you never know who's going to show up. So difficult to say. It is difficult. As I said, it's very competitive. It's a very high level of competition. But I can't speak to where you are as an individual and where you would be. But again, that's why we hold open tryouts for all of our varsity teams, is to give everyone the opportunity to come out and see whether they feel they're comfortable at that level or whether the teams themselves and the coaching staff feel they're at that level.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay, here, another question that I have. What are the types of scholarship opportunities that varsity athletes might have?
So for entering scholarships, we do have what's known as our green and white scholarships. So these are financial awards that are dedicated to varsity athletes and to entering students. And so those are generally decided by our coaches. We do have a varsity recruiter as well who helps out with some of that recruitment. Okay. But at the end of the day, it's at the discretion of the coach as to who would be offered something. So if anyone's interested, we definitely want to point people towards for varsity to the varsity website, trentvarsity.ca. On there, you'll find a section on recruitment where you can submit a form that includes some of your past experiences, recent coaches, and then you can be put in contact with a coach. And usually, just for that sense of timing, the individuals who are being recruited actively or who have been observed by our coaches already tend to be the ones who are being connected with those scholarships, but it doesn't preclude anyone who's not being from doing so.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Good to know. And I do know as well too that any varsity athlete can also be receiving the entrance scholarship, the guaranteed entrance scholarship.
Absolutely, yeah. So the academic or the entrance scholarships that are available are definitely available to varsity athletes as they would be to any other student on campus.
Definitely, yeah, and it's a huge bonus too, because then they'd be able to stack that varsity scholarship potentially on another scholarship, so it can really help them out.
Yes, I will just add one point. So there are regulations within the university sport as to the total amount that can be given as an athletic scholarship.
Okay.
So when part of the scholarship is contingent on your athletic contributions, they deem it as within the OUA our regional programming. It's deemed as what they deem 1 year's tuition. So it's $4,500 per year is the maximum, and that does can coincide with academic and athletic scholarships there as well. So just need to, we hope that we have lots of people who have that issue, right? Because it means you're excelling both academically and athletically, but just want to make sure that's clear for people.
Okay, all right. No, that's definitely a good point to make. Okay, we have another question here from Bill. Bill is wondering, what is your favorite part about being an athlete at Trent, just from your own experience?
Well, that was a while ago. It wasn't just a year or two ago. But you know what? I think that looking back on it, the relationships that were developed were pretty fantastic. You know, I was just last summer in a wedding with one of my former teammates. I'm still in very good close contact, and those who I do keep in closest contact a lot of the time from my university days tend to be the guys that I played soccer with. You know, basically from the middle of August to the middle of November, you're spending anywhere from 5 to 7 days a week with these individuals, traveling on the road together, nights in hotels. So you develop a close bond with these individuals, and that's definitely some of my fond memories. You always remember pulling that jersey on as well, though. It's a pretty special moment when you get on the field and you're representing and really realize that you're representing more than just yourself. You know, there's upwards of 10,000 students and staff and faculty that, you know, say they go to Trent or they work at Trent, and at the end of the day, you're out wearing Trent's colors, and that's pretty special as well.
Definitely, there must be a big bond between the athletes that are on the varsity teams, eh?
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, it's a fairly unique experience. Not everybody has the opportunity to be a varsity athlete and experience that, but there's certainly other opportunities to develop those bonds on campus. But like I said, a little bit unique to be spending that much time with like-minded individuals and working towards a common goal.
For sure, for sure. I definitely know from my experience just being on an intramural soccer team when I was at Trent, maybe not at your level, but intramurals nonetheless. It was great to just have a time devoted each week to just not having to worry about school, not have to worry about studying, just getting together with a group of friends and just having fun and playing soccer. You know, soccer is something that I enjoy, and I'm not quite good at it, but I do enjoy playing it. So definitely for me, playing intramurals was a great experience.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point to make. It's not just about varsity. So I know there will be a lot of questions about varsity specifically. And if, you know, Bill, if you have further questions that you want on that, or anybody else for that matter, and a little bit more in depth about specific programs, feel free to contact me at my email, varsity@trentu.ca. And we can make sure we can get a little bit more detail there. But again, a lot of the information is available on the trentvarsity.ca website for the varsity programming. And keep your eye out on there.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so we've got a question here from Annabelle. How would you organize your classes around varsity sports to be able to make practice and training sessions? Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And when we talked about the academic athletic balance for varsity athletes, that's a very good question. Specifically to that. So we always recommend that our varsity athletes try to set up time with an academic advisor or someone to speak with who can help them build their schedule. And that's something a lot of our varsity athletes do. An easy way to kind of suggest it, a lot of the times our training, the practices happen in the evening. So if you can try to focus your classes on daytime classes when the opportunity does afford itself, that's always a fantastic idea. With certain competitions, most competitions are on weekends, so you generally don't have to worry too often about conflicts between your courses and your actual competition. But if you can avoid a Friday class, it may help if you do have a significant distance to travel. We do travel across the province, and if we're fortunate enough, inter-province, if we have a national competition to go to. So, but very good question there, and definitely something that you'd want to be proactive on, because once the season gets moving, it gets moving really fast, and especially if you're a first-year student, it's a lot of things happening at once, adapting to a new home, a new city many times, a new residents, new people, and obviously you're into post-secondary education, and then balancing, like I said, 5 to 7 days at times with your training and competition.
For sure.
So it's a lot. It's a lot to juggle.
It's definitely a balance.
Plan ahead.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, another question that I had here was: is there any type of special academic supports for varsity athletes, or any type of workshops that are put on for athletes of how to balance that?
Yeah, that's another great question. So we're constantly looking to how we can provide the best resources and adapting what resources are available, looking at what's been offered in the past. So there's times where we'll have study halls. A lot of the teams themselves will often have team meetings and team time where senior players will actually work with the newer players to ensure that things are that are on point, and again, planning ahead as opposed to trying to react to everything. And actually, that's one of the unique aspects, is many people wonder how you're going to balance that schedule. And at the end of the day, I'll speak to soccer, and I'll keep going back to soccer because I know it a little bit more than some of the other sports. But if you've got 25 people on a roster, they're all in a similar situation to you. So if you're a first-year business student, for instance, the likelihood is there's another student on your team or teammate who was a first-year student in business playing soccer, and they've been through that motion. So it really develops that opportunity to find someone who's been in the same scenario as you. As I suggested, taking advantage of many of the services that are available, like academic advisors to all of our students, not just unique to student athletes, and we encourage people to be proactive in use of those. Like I said, we're always looking for new ways to provide new resources to these individuals as well.
Definitely. Okay, that's great to hear. Okay, all right. Let's see if we've got any more questions here. So it looks like we're coming down to the last few questions. So if anybody else does have any more questions, please get them in fairly soon, because we will be wrapping up. Now, another question here. What is the big difference between an extramural sport and a varsity sport?
That's a very good question. So extramural sport does derive itself from the intramural programming. A lot of the time, some of the sports that you'll see within that those competitions are sports that maybe aren't as I don't want to say well supported, but there's not quite as many individuals competing across the province. So not every university will have a program in it. So a sport like ultimate frisbee is something that, it's grown exponentially over the last decade or so. But earlier on, that would have been the type of sport that you'd see. Other sports, like we have co-ed indoor soccer. So there's not necessarily a varsity level of that. But we still want to afford people the opportunity to go out and compete outside of their school. So it's a slightly different structure, and it offers the opportunity for sports that are more up and coming to sort of develop. Hockey is just one that there's so many people playing it that I think that various levels need to be there, and the level of commitment to a varsity hockey program is significantly different from an extramural where it's a tournament based. But we won't get into the fine details of that. But there's various reasons. But again, there can be a fairly high level of competition at those extramural programs. I know that we have some very talented hockey players on our extramural team. So it doesn't, not to discount the quality that's there. It's definitely a good competition.
Okay, all right, that's great to hear. Now, I guess kind of going off of that, there is a bit of a difference too between both a varsity team and a varsity club. I think you had mentioned in your presentation that a club was more student run, where a varsity team wasn't really. Could you expand on that maybe a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. So our varsity clubs, it's actually part of a pathway that we're trying to evolve here with some of our student clubs. So the Trent Central Student Association offers the opportunity for anyone to propose, any student on campus to propose a student club, not just athletic clubs, but some of those are athletically oriented. And we we're trying to develop a pathway where people can move up, and as more and more people are involved in those athletic clubs, there may be the opportunity to get to a point where you are competing at varsity inter-university competition. So we'll take one of those, our fencing program, for instance. So we have 2 programs within that fencing program. It is all set up through a student group, and some of them are part of what's known as a Learn to Fence program, and they are, so the coach of that program, Courtney Peters, will help introduce people to the sport of fencing. But then there's a smaller contingent of fencers who are experienced, who are at a level where they want to compete at a slightly higher level, and we endorse that club to go compete under the Trent Excalibur banner at the OUA competition. So they'll go to the provincial championships and compete as the Trent Excalibur, but they're not set up as a varsity program underneath the department. So many of our varsity programs, our high performance programs, are in what's known as a league-based setup. So soccer, you have a 16-game season, you play 8 at home, 8 away, and then if you qualify based on the seeding for the playoffs, you continue through the provincials and have the opportunity to go to nationals with U Sport. Other sports like fencing have a number of open events that they compete in throughout the season, and then there's an OUA championship that culminates the season. So it's a little bit, that's referred to as a tournament-based event. So the student clubs have more opportunities for these tournament-based events potentially, and it just kind of affords the option there. But in terms of the athletes themselves go and they compete, they wear fencers don't wear the green and white necessarily because they've got their gear on, which is slightly different, but they are still representing the Trent Excalibur and Trent University at competition, just a slightly different format under how they're structured.
So I guess then, kind of in theory, then a student can actually create then almost a varsity team. Kind of.
Sort of. I mean, in theory, that's what the purpose of the pathway is to allow for the opportunity of people to go forward and develop sustainable programs. So we've had fencing at Trent for decades, and it's a very well supported program on campus. And so due to that consistent support and participation, it made sense to endorse them. So not every single, there are commitments that have to be made with the leagues and things. They don't want people popping in and out year in, year out, because that doesn't help with the strength of the leagues. But it does theoretically offer the opportunity for an athletic club, student club, to potentially have a goal of getting to, competing at inter-university competition.
That's amazing. That is definitely a great initiative for our students.
Yeah,
awesome.
Excited about it.
Okay. All right. So it doesn't look like there are any more questions. All right. Nope. That's it. Okay. So it looks like then that concludes tonight's webinar. So I just wanted to thank everybody who joined us this evening. We hope we've taught you a little bit more about varsity and campus recreation at Trent University, and maybe gotten you a little inspired to bleed green with Trent University Excalibur. Now, I will say this, if you do have any questions in the future, obviously you can reach out to Alex Bridle, but if you have any general questions about Trent University, you can always reach out to the liaison department. So you can call us at 1-888-739-8885, or you can also email us at liaison@trentu.ca. Of course, too, if you do want to visit the campus, maybe you do want to go see our beautiful athletic center, we have campus tours that run 6 days a week from Monday to Saturday. And you can book one of those tours by going online to trentu.ca/tours. All right, so thank you again for joining us, and we hope that you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.